10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Chapter 1. The Dun's Arrival. On a long, clear road, winding its way through a heavily forested area, like some sort of black, flat snake, a light blue minivan sped along with it. A man in his mid-30s drove, while a long, blonde-haired woman sat in the passenger seat. The music on the radio that he was listening to was cutting in and out as he drove. The woman was leaning back, reading the newest copy of her favorite fantasy series, The Guardian of Light. The author had just released the 4th book in the series, and her children had just got her the book for Christmas. The man pushed the power button on the radio, silencing the static.
"Dad, are we almost there?"
A young girl's voice called out. The man behind the wheel turned his head slightly. "Yeah, I think we're about 45 minutes away," the driver said to his daughter, who had the same blonde hair as the woman in the passenger seat.
"Dad, my phone has no connection. Just where are you taking us?"
A young boy in his early teens whined. "You two are ridiculous. We are going on vacation, and you can't stay off your phones," the man driving told them.
"Dad, couldn't you sound any more cliché?"
the boy asked. Just then, the man driving swerved the car sharply to the right to avoid a deer with giant antlers. He looked back quickly as his wife lifted her book back up.
"Jesus, honey, what the hell?"
she let out. "Sorry, there was a deer." He turned his attention back to the road and continued driving, as dark storm clouds began to creep across the bright afternoon sky. They finally made it to a dirt path with a road marker that was, as described, on a printed sheet of paper that the man driving had been reading. "Not long now, guys," he said. "Oh, yay," the kids in the back seat let out, in a sarcastic, boring cheer. "Oh, hey, Dad, look. Another tree," the boy pointed out. "You see? See what I told you? We should have just taken this trip without them," the man told his wife. His wife kept reading her book, acting as if he wasn't even talking to her. The man drove over a dirt road, which led to a massive, black iron gate. As he stopped the vehicle, there was a small key card and call box. He rolled down the window and pressed the call button.
Hello?
An older man's voice said, after a few seconds of silence. Yes, we are here for the rental vacation house. I am pretty sure I followed the directions I was emailed. Is this the right place?" he said, sounding like he wasn't sure he was where he was supposed to be. The gate suddenly creaked open, giving off a load of high-pitched winding and grinding sounds. He put the car in drive and drove forward onto a cobblestone driveway. As they turned and the house came into view, they found they were looking at a huge, massive mansion. The front yard was littered with tons of rose bushes, which were in full bloom. Everyone in the car found this very remarkable, as this was odd because it was the beginning of January. It was Georgia, but they thought it had to be in a warmer climate. They pulled right up to a massive stone stairwell, which had a pair of stone lions on each side of the bottom. The whole family got out, and the kids stared in amazement at the huge home. "Looks kind of like a castle," the son commented. "Yeah, it does," the little girl agreed, Just then, an older couple came driving up in a white and black golf cart. The woman stepped off and walked over to the family. "You are the Dunns?" the woman said as she walked up. She was wearing an old, tattered, yet clean black dress. Her graying brown hair was tied back in a tight little bun. "Yes, I'm David. This is my wife, Amber, and our 2 children, William and Mary." As he said each name, he pointed to the person. "Yes, well, follow me," she said as she turned. She began walking up the steps as the man stepped out of the golf cart and walked over to them. "Keys, please, sir, so that I may unload your baggage for you," he asked, as David was the last to start up the stairs. He dug into his pocket and handed the car keys to the old man. David continued up the stairs and rejoined his family. As the 5 of them reached the extra-large dark oak door, the woman opened it, revealing the main entrance, which was a huge, massive, rectangular room full of paintings and statues. There was a large marble staircase along the rear of the room, and this part of the house seemed to be at least 3 stories. "This way, please," she called, as the entire family gawked. They all finally began moving to keep up with the woman. "I'm sorry, miss, I didn't catch your name. What was it?" "My name is Emily Oceans, but most just call me M," she said coldly. She led them down a hall full of doors, leading them to another staircase. Only this one was narrower and definitely not as well kept. They walked up to the 2nd floor and arrived in another hallway full of doors. M walked over to a door and opened it, revealing a large room that was full of old toys and dolls. The canopy bed had pink, see-through curtains, and there was a large, oval, standing mirror. Aside from the old-fashioned, white-painted furniture, there was nothing else particular about the room. "The girl can stay in this room during your stay," she told the family. Thank you," Mary said as she looked at the bed. She led them back out of the room and down a few more doors. When she opened the next door, this room was a dark red, with 2 large windows that overlooked the backyard. Will looked around and saw that the room was not decorated with anything special that would interest him. There was a large bed, big enough for 2 people, and it had a red and black striped blanket, but the dresser and night table were bare. In fact, the room was incredibly clean. As his parents looked around, Will pulled out his phone and saw that he still had no service. As he repocketed his phone, he walked over to the windows, which had thick, dark curtains hanging beside them. He glanced out the window and saw there was a lake with a boathouse and a dock. There was also a tree house with a tire swing under it. As David walked over to see what Will was looking at, he quickly noticed. "Wow, that's really nice," David told his son. "Yeah, I guess," Will replied dismally. David found it very interesting that children of the world today could be so dependent on technology and social media to not be amazed by a mansion like this one. David and his family currently lived in a 3-bedroom house that they owned. "This room should be suitable for the boy," Em told them, as she turned and left the room. As everyone began to follow the old woman through the house again, Amber walked up and took David's hand. He knew by the way that she held his hand. This gesture meant she wanted to say something to him, a bit privately. How can we afford this? She whispered in his ear softly. Mr. Than is a rather generous host. He is not always here. He has other homes around the world. When he is not planning to be here, he will often use the place as a means to help people. He will place an ad and offer his home to a family, and as such, we are to serve that family during their stay with us, M explained to Amber, before David could answer. I thought it was strange the place was only $500 for the weekend, David tacked on. Like I said, M began, as she arrived at a pair of white doors. The family had not even noticed that the wallpaper in this section of the house was different than the wallpaper from the hall before. He puts the house up at a low price and does not offer pictures because he wants a family that really needs the help to get what he has to offer. She opened the doors and revealed a massive room, which was only half as big as the main entrance room, but still very nice. The furniture around the room looked just as old as the rest of the furniture in the house that they had seen. The large bed had an elaborate, golden headboard. The large blanket looked soft and new. There were 4 windows, 2 of which overlooked the backyard, and 2 which overlooked to the west side of the house. There were also several paintings hanging on the walls, as well as some kind of pull string. M walked over to the pull string device. This is the servant's bell, and is to be used to call a servant to your needs. Servants? Amber asked. Yes, there are 7 of us. I and my husband manage things during the day. There are 2 cooks on staff that alternate weeks. I believe Thomas is the cook this week. Then there is the housekeeper, Elena. She works until the end of the month. And finally, there are the 2 gardeners, Jason and Jeremy. They do not live on the property. I thought you said there were 7, Will said smartly. The housekeepers switch each month. Bethany has this month off, so she will not be here during your stay. Only the cook and housekeeper on staff stay in the house during their time of employment. They have their own rooms on the 3rd floor. The bell will ring in each of their rooms, as well as the kitchen and the basement. Where do you and your husband sleep? David asked, trying to be friendly with her. However, the expression on her face said she clearly did not desire to make any such friendship with him. The 2 of us do not live on the grounds, and in fact have our own home in the village. We will be leaving in a few hours, and will not be back until 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. So I highly suggest that should you desire any kind of food or clothing, to inform me before I leave for the night, as the village is about an hour's drive from here. I think we should be good. Right, guys? David asked excitedly to his family. Yeah, sure, Mary said. This way, and I will continue your tour. M led them out of the room, and she showed them a large library on the 3rd floor, an observatory room at the top of a tower, which made Will think of a lighthouse. That room was big, but had a desk, and a grand, expensive-looking telescope, and the walls were all windows. From this place, you could look all around the grounds of the mansion. They returned back through the halls to the foyer. David, for some reason, felt a strange sense of familiarity with the mansion. He knew he had never been in a place like this before, but it just came off as he had lived here for years. Perhaps it was like something he had dreamed up or something. As they reached the front doors, M turned to face the family that was quietly following her.
I am afraid I must leave you all now, as I had some things to tend to before my shift for the day ends. The dining room is just beyond those doors, and dinner is served around 7.
As she finished speaking, she quickly turned and headed out of the front doors. She wasn't even gone for a minute when Will turned on the spot and was just about to race off.
"Stop right there, mister!"
his mother called out.
"I just wanted to check out the lake before it started raining,"
he told her. Then, as if on cue, there was a loud boom of thunder and the sudden echo of raindrops falling on the roof and walls of the massive house.
"Too late,"
his sister teased.
"Go to your rooms and unpack your suitcases. Maybe when the rain stops, you can explore outside,"
she told them both. Before she could say another word, they were gone. David missed being a child sometimes. They always were so full of energy and life. However, that was what the vacation was for. A chance for him to get some well-deserved rest before returning to his daily job, which he liked but wished he didn't have. David worked in graphic design for a marketing company. He liked his job because he got to make art on computers, but he wanted to branch out and do something where he was able to have his own company. Sadly for David, every time he considered doing just that, something came up and took that chance further out of his reach. He walked back up to the room they were shown with his wife. As they reached the room, they saw that their bags were already placed in the dead center of the room. The two of them unpacked each of their suitcases, and when they were done, David laid on the bed and watched as Amber stored them in a closet, right by the bedroom door. David was trying to lay in a very suggestive position as Amber closed the closet door.
"Aren't you tired?"
she asked him as she gazed, knowing what he had on his mind. Regardless, she tapped the edge of the bedroom door, which was still open with a large gap, causing it to close. "A little, but I know you're not tired. All you did was sit and read the whole way here."
"Are we really going to fight about this now? You know I do it for my blog, and this book has been out since November."
"Relax, I was kidding," he told her, as she laid next to him on the bed. He kissed her soft, rosy pink lips. Kinda. The two of them kissed some more, in order to keep the other from starting an argument. They were just about to get hot and heavy when the bedroom door burst open.
"Dad!"
Will yelled out. Mother and father quickly separated.
"What?"
he said as he sat up on the bed.
"I saw something."
Will's voice was full of panic and fear.
"Okay, this brings me back to my previous question. What?" "I don't know. It was strange. Come with me. I'll show you,"
Will said as he left the bedroom. David stood up and walked to the bedroom door. "I'll be back. You stay here," he said, with a very suggestive smile.
"I'll consider it,"
Amber said, as she put herself in the same pose he was previously in, before she got on the bed. David knew she was messing with him, because she looked much sexier in that pose than he thought he could ever look doing that.
"Dad!"
Will called out from down the hall. David headed out of the room, closing the door behind him. He followed his son back through the mansion, up the tower, to the observation office with the telescope. When they got there, his son pointed out towards the lake in the distance, behind the house.
"It was there, sitting in the middle of the lake."
What was? It was right at this point David noticed something strange about the room they were in. Outside, it was pouring cats and dogs worth of raindrops, yet there wasn't a drop on the windows. His son rushed over and grabbed hold of the telescope and peered through the eyepiece.
It was like a massive, black, shadowy thing just sitting in the center of the lake. Oh no, on the center of the lake, he told his father.
Maybe I should tell you it was just the wind, like they say in every horror movie? David walked over towards his son. Here, let me see, he told him as he reached for the telescope. Will backed away and looked out the windows down towards the lake and saw nothing. David used the telescope and scanned over the magnified surface of the water. Yet all he saw was fat droplets of water crashing down to the surface of the lake. Well, I don't see any. As he moved over the backyard, he could have sworn he did see some black thing standing or being in a huge set of bushes by the tree line. But whatever it was, vanished very quickly. He only knew he had seen something because the limbs of the bushes were still slightly swaying.
Dad, what did you see?
Will panicked. Just some animal in the bushes is all. No smoky black monster. He had seen something black, but figured it was possibly a wolf or a bear that had probably lost its trail in the rain and was trying to find its way back to whatever cave or hole it called a den. Were there bears and wolves here? He wondered to himself.
Animals don't walk on water,
his son replied. It was really getting too hard to see much of anything, because as they stood there, the gray sky outside was quickly going from gray and dull to dark and black. Did you do as your mother asked and unpack your bag? Yes, Dad, he moaned as David put his arm around the boy. He could not help but notice that his son's gaze had not left the very odd, dry windows. Trying to break the tension, he led his son to the stairs and added, You didn't just toss them in the dresser, did you?
Hey, they're unpacked, aren't they?
Go fix it before your mother sees it and has me kill you. Once they reached the bottom of the stairs, Will took off towards his room. David walked down another hallway to his own room, but as he passed by a door, he swore he heard the faint sounds of something behind a closed door. Not quite sure what it was he was hearing, he moved closer to the door and quietly placed his head on the door to listen. It sounded like someone was walking around the room, scratching. David had not seen his daughter and wondered if by chance it was her. He grabbed the brass-looking doorknob and threw open the door. He flipped the light switch and saw nothing. Really, nothing. The room was just an empty room. No furniture of any kind. Nobody walking, standing, or sitting. No scratches or marks of any kind on the walls or on the floor. Just a room. He left the room and closed the door behind him. The Dunn family sets out to a mysterious location for a family getaway one weekend. However, once they get there, they find more than they bargained for. If you enjoy a terrifying, spooky horror story that will fill you with chills and thrills, then read or listen to this newest short story written by Sean Connaughton and check out The Mansion.